So, guys, I want to talk about the mass person in AEW, and there's a lot of people who say it should be CM Punk. And first of all, I think it's going to be Jack Perry because I really think with Jack Perry, you look at the mass person, and they have a very smaller body frame. So I do think that it looks a lot like it's going to be Jack Perry. But I understand that with both CM Punk and Jack Perry, the issue is that they both caused an incident at All In, and it sends a bad message if you eventually bring them back, or unless you do something like say, okay, well, CM Punk and Jack Perry both had to go to a bunch of forms of counseling like anger management, conflict resolution, and other things. So you bring them back, and they're actually rehabilitated, and there's attempts to rehabilitating it, because otherwise, like if it was CM Punk, you are sending a message that if you are a star, you are above the company. You look at like all the times Randy Orton's been suspended, and he broke the three-strike rule, but they still brought him back into WWE. When it's three strikes, you get fired, but they have double standards. But I would also kind of say that you'd also have to kind of make sure that when CM Punk comes back, he's learned how to kind of handle his frustrations better. So you don't have like CM Punk part three or whatever. But still, I really want to say that with CM Punk's issues, there is a lot of responsibility on. There's also 50%, 51% his side, 49% Jack Perry's side. You shouldn't antagonize people because sometimes it goes south. But I do want to talk a little bit about like CM Punk and why it would be a good thing if he was the masked man. And the things I just stated were the concerns, but I do think that first of all, it would be a hell of a twist. The next thing is that I do think with all this time off, if he needed surgery or just needed to heal up, this would have been good for him. And also, if he needed time to rehabilitate himself, this would be good. So it kind of gives you a distance. And I would say, like, a lot of people wouldn't really argue about what happened at All In because it was like 4 months ago. They revealed it at World's End or something like that. So I do think that if they reveal at World's End, the first thing that I would say is that it's definitely, if it's going to be CM Punk, it's 4 months since Wembley. So people are really over it now. The next thing that I would say is that if it is CM Punk, it's a good start for the new year because it's like now we're going to have CM Punk back and now he's going after MJF. And what I would say is that they should not have a match um, until Final Resolution. I think that's their pay per view. I think it's like until Resolution. That pay per view with Sting retiring. That should be when they have their match really. So it sets up that match, and I would say that if they have other pay per views or whatever, that would be a very bad thing if they have it on a minor pay per view, like the pay per view where Sting's retiring, AW Revolution. That should be that should be where they have their match. I'm sorry I'm saying Final Resolution because I know I'm confusing it with the TNA pay per view. So it kind of sets up the next pay per view. The next thing that I would say is that I think that it sends a good message to everybody because obviously if you are a money draw, you should be associated with AEW. Why would you kind of get rid of your money draw? And I understand too that there's people like Shawn Michaels, that were paying the asses, and Vince kept him because he made money. And even in TNA, you looked at Jeff Hardy; he was a money draw. So they kept him for a while. So sometimes it makes sense to keep somebody if they dictate a lot of ratings and Collision and everything went down really. So I think that it's going to go up because obviously you have CM Punk. It sends some goodwill to people. And then I would also kind of say that this would be a great way to introduce him. And if he has a faction or whatever of different people he's trying to build up, I think that'd be good. So I would kind of say that would be the next thing too. That if you have CM Punk and you have two other wrestlers that kind of really deserve a little bit of a booster shot, I think then it would be good to associate that with CM Punk really. And I'm not sure who you would do as as people in his faction. Like I would say that honestly, it should be like two people who are a little lost on the roster. Like I would say like I would kind of like would say maybe like a Wardlow or another like person as well because I know like Wardlow can talk in the microphone, but he's not like he was super over. But you need to find another way to make him more super over. So if he was associated with CM Punk, that would be kind of good. Like they all just hate MJF really, and that'd be that really. I think that I don't know anybody else that I think would make a good a good kind of follow up. But I would also kind of would say that I think the next thing that I would say is that obviously it would be a really great twist. And there's a lot of people saying that AEW's gone down in viewership, so they kind of need something very, very big. And then also if you do like MJF as a like as like a Fight Club thing where he split personality syndrome, I think a lot of people say it may feel a little cheap, but it may be surprising, it may feel a little cheap. And then the next person I would say is that if you do, and some people are even talking about like Jack Perry, and as I said, that he doesn't have the same charisma as CM Punk, and a lot of people don't like him for getting CM Punk fired for being part of that process, really. So it wouldn't be a good thing for him. And then the next thing is that if you have Adam Cole, it's a little predictable. It would be good, but it would be predictable. But it would kind of be the safe thing. And then the next thing that I would say is that some people are talking about Tony Khan, and he turns heel, and a lot of people would kind of say that he's too kind of like he's kind of quirky, so it'd be a little too silly for him to be like that, and why would he want to turn heel on his company? And I also think that if you have somebody else like Kyle O'Reilly, who the hell is Kyle O'Reilly? And because Kyle O'Reilly is almost like Jay White in a sense, like Jay White's kind of really known for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I don't think that Jay White should have ever fought MJF because he's more of a New Japan person. He doesn't really have the same star power as like someone like Kenny Omega really. So if you bring Kyle O'Reilly, it's like, who the hell is Kyle O'Reilly? Same thing with Roderick Strong. Like I do appreciate they're showing Roderick Strong, but Roderick Strong is not really a megastar. He needs to kind of be a big deal. It has to be a really big signing. And other people are saying like Dolph Ziggler, he's not as big of a deal. I would also say like maybe Swerve Strickland would be a good person as well, because at least with Swerve Strickland, nobody would see it coming. But Swerve, a lot of people want to see him as a champion. He has like some charisma, so I think Swerve Strickland would be a good choice. But I do think CM Punk would be like the best one. I think he would be number one. I think number two would be Adam Cole to play it safe. I think number three would be Swerve Strickland, and then number four would be MJF really. But I do think that whoever it is, it has to be a really big deal. I do think CM Punk, it would continue the story. He could talk about his frustrations. He can talk about how he doesn't look at MJF as a champion. Like he said, you're doing those kangaroo kicks. You're doing this all the time. You're kind of like as I always talk about, I'm working with children or whatever. So I do think it would work to have CM Punk. It would kind of surprise a lot of people. It would hype the views. And I think rightfully so. I would hope for it to be CM Punk, and it would help out him and a lot of other stars. And I think that's also the other thing with AEW is that they need to kind of make everybody a big deal, like how everybody was a big deal in the Attitude Era. And that approach would kind of make it a way better show. And one of the ways to do it is to bring CM Punk back. And then also like down the line, if they say something like, well, the 4 months that he had off, he was going to rehab to work on his behavioral issues. We did that with Jungle Boy. He's back bigger and stronger. We have extra security around him, so when he's backstage, people are just watching him. And if somebody tries to antagonize him or whatever, we just have people there to be like, dude, you need to kind of chill. I know you're kind of mad, but let's just kind of chill. We're going to take more preventive measures. If those things did happen, I think it would be better, and I think people kind of would understand the situation, really. But it would also be controversial because I think then you're doing MJF versus CM Punk Part 3. You're showing that you can't really rely on new stars. You have to bring back a CM Punk, and eventually you can't do CM Punk versus MJF all the time. Eventually it gets old. So, it would be kind of interesting to have CM Punk as the masked man, and I think that it would do a lot more good than bad for AEW if that was the case.